Today, I'm going to be sharing yet another story from my filmmaking background. This story came right after a moment where my brother, my friends, and I, who were shooting an independent Sasquatch movie up in Northern California, we had filmed half of our movie, and then we had hunters roll into our film set, which was our campground. And this took place back in 2009, and it was fall time. And we had to quickly recalibrate and figure out how we were going to shoot the rest of this movie. And we reached out to friends that we knew that were in the area and asked if there were hunting zones that were free of hunting and whether or not we could go to those areas. And luckily, we had a friend up in Tahoe who also had a cabin, or he was staying at a cabin. And he said, yeah, you guys are more than welcome to come and stay as long as you need. And, we said, we're going to have to be there for a week. And he's like, yeah, no problem. We were like, yeah. And he made the joke. He's like, but just so you know, the cabin is haunted. And we laughed, and so did he. And once we got up there, we quickly settled in, and we're like, what was the joke about the cabin being haunted? And he's like, oh, well, this isn't my cabin. This is a friend of mine. And his friend we had known as well. And he said that there were strange occurrences that had happened there, but that he had not experienced any of them, but his friend said that he had. We were like, okay, we had already had a few things around set that were weird while we were lower in the forest. But once we got up to Tahoe and we stayed at this cabin, things started quickly getting a little strange. And Mike, a friend of ours who is also helping out with production, he went upstairs that night and was in the shower. And we're all downstairs and we're just having conversation, kind of, recalibrating. And he comes rushing to the top of the stairs, and he's holding a towel and completely naked and holding a towel over his privates. And he's like, which one of you motherfuckers did it? We're like, did what? And he's like, I know one of you is messing with me. Which one of you did it? Well, who's tapping on the window? We're like, tapping on what window? He's like, I was up there taking a shower, and one of you is messing with me, and I'm sick of it. It's not funny. And we look around, we're like, we've all been down here, and we don't know what you're talking about. No one's messing with you. And I suggested, I was like, well, when we came in, it was windy. There's probably a huge tree that's tapping on the window. And so we go outside, and sure enough, there's absolutely no trees around that window. And we're all like, huh. But we're shooting a kind of a horror thriller style movie. Maybe we're in our own heads. We've spent several nights outside up to this point. In the other campground, weird things are kind of like swarming around our heads. Maybe, he's just being a little too sensitive. And then the following night, Mike, same guy, said that there's this large mirror and it keeps turning back around. And we're like, what are you talking about? And there was like, sure enough, there was like this armoire, big, heavy mirror that had like a wooden backing, and it was on a hinge. Well, on the first night after the scary occurrences were happening with the tapping on the window, Mike had gone to change, and in the room that was upstairs that had that mirror, and he noticed that the mirror was cracked and cloudy and just looked creepy. And he said his reflection looked distorted, and it kind of gave him the creeps. And so he had turned it around, but every single time he went back into the room, it was turned to face him. And he said this happened several times, and he was like, I am not staying in that room anymore. So me and my brother and another friend, Garrett, were like, okay, well, we'll stay up there. And Garrett had made the joke. He was like, I'm not staying in that room unless there's an Ellering. And we all laughed. And the production rolled on. And as the production rolled on, little things here and there that were strange. We kept getting the rotating mirror effect. And we just figured it was somebody that was purposely doing it. And in our crew, on the last night that we were there, we had already wrapped Garrett and Mike, and both of our friends named Mike were downstairs, and I think it was just me and Nate, and we were upstairs, or just sleeping up there, and we were definitely the only two that were up in that room at that point. But I was super, I was, I was super tired, and I wanted to go to sleep, but Nate, my brother, he was like, no, we have to finish these shots and make, decisions on them. Like, okay. I had pulled out our production binder and pulled out some blank storyboard templates, and we were sitting there, and we hear behind us this like metal clanking, and we're like, what the heck is that? And so we turn, and I remember I turn behind, and I see this, there's a closet door, and there's this old metal hook, and is like kind of like a eyelet and hook, and we both watch it as this thing goes, unhooks itself, and then the door opens up in the most unnatural way. Instant shivers down my back. I know what I saw. I know what I felt. Me and my brother look at each other like, what the? And we bolt downstairs, and we're like, there's something up there. And Mike, he just like points at us and says, say. And it was the same feeling that he had at that point. And it was just, up until that point in my life, I had watched a lot of like scary movies, and my mom would watch Unsolved Mysteries, and we grew up with the voice of Robert Stack and going into rooms, and like you have this this sense of what could be, but you never really believe it. But that was the first time, and I think I was 28 at the time. That was the first time where I had seen, heard, felt something that was not normal. That was not my normal routine. I can't explain it. And my brother was right there to witness it as well. And I don't know. It kind of made me reevaluate my beliefs up to that point. But I'd be interested to hear if any of you guys have any good ghost stories, around the campfire stories. I thank you guys for tuning in to this live, and I will catch you on the next one.